Alright, welcome everybody to a quick tutorial of Toukiden 2's Naginata. This is going to be a rather subjective tutorial because I'm going to explain mostly how I play the weapon and how I have found it work for me, in addition to going over the basic combos, commands, etc. Will I be doing more of these? Short answer, no. Why? This is the only weapon I'm qualified to do this with. I'd say about 90% at minimum of my playtime in this game has been with the Naginata. So we're going to start here. We're going to go over some basic commands, how the weapon works, and then I'm going to get into the technicals while fighting a larger monster via the request. Right now I'm just in free roam. So, to start, you have your standard, you know, X, square, whatever the button is on the keyboard, because I don't use keyboard controls, for your basic attack controls. Pretty standard. Your other attack does a single stronger move, or if you hold it, can actually launch you into the air where you can continue attacking. Now, the thing to watch out for, of course, while you're attacking in the air, is if you look in the upper left, you'll notice attacking in the air does drain stamina. Like, simply, being up in the air does too, from that. That said, for example, yeah, being in the air in general does. But I wasn't 100% sure, which is why I had to check with that. I typically don't use Y, again, because of what I just demonstrated, that you can, if you need to get up, you can just use that, and then it's the exact same combos. You have a couple other things here. Pressing B, circle, whatever it is on keyboard, probably L, knowing how these work, will launch you into a frenzy combo, which drains stamina as you go through it. This is going to become very important later, especially with elemental and speed builds, for a mechanic I'll get into when we're fighting a larger monster called Mastery. And then you also have an attack I keep forgetting about because I never use it. It's a dodge stance that lets you get out of being hit, basically. If it impacts while your weapon is out like that. But as you notice, it drains a lot of stamina. And apparently, yeah. I don't know why it double countered out. I guess I thought I was in the air. But yeah, let me double check to make sure I'm not missing anything real quick. Yes, I see those guys over there. Yeah, and then just your weapon attack, your destroyer when your weapon gauge is full, is a shockwave attack that actually has decent range to drop through. But yeah, so now I'm going to go ahead after we've covered that, because there's one more very important. It's very important to how this weapon works, and it's much easier to demonstrate than explain. Oh yeah, you're not going to actually explain that, are you? Because, yeah, you don't have that here, unless, yeah. Okay, yes, they do have. It's called Hyper-Skilled. And apparently there is that I missed, which is that you can do that, which may or may not have different moves in Mastery or Hyper-Skilled. I don't use it, so it doesn't really apply to me. I can't really help you there on when to use it. I think I was experimenting with it and it takes you down Mastery, but it's been so long I can't say for certain that's what it is. So with this, we're going to go ahead and pause, and I'm going to resume the recording in combat with a large monster so I can demonstrate some of the mechanics and some of how this weapon functions. Alright, and we're back. So this is just a standard way to demonstrate the weapon pretty solidly. Can't tell if I'm hitting it or one of my friends here. Alright, so yes, as you see, now I've turned yellow and red. The thing is, as you enter this hyper-skilled state, your attacks can hit more parts of the monster at the same time. So like there, one hit. Here, I'm getting 3 because I'm in red hyper-skills. this is great for status and whatnot. And the thing is, that 3 hits also applies to your frenzy attack. So you'll notice I'm just going to town, and you'll notice my gauge and whatnot over there going. But you can go ahead and finish it into, you know, any of the other combos that we've gone over here. And again, if you really need to reposition, you can launch yourself with the Y attack. I don't normally, but okay, I did not. I did that too early. Yep. Again, and I build this. I'm going to save my builds and how I do that for after this first demonstration, and then actually do this battle the way I normally would. This right now is more just to demonstrate what the weapon can do, regardless of Mitama. So I'm trying to avoid anything that would really go to Mitama heavy right now. As you can see, I am running a speed Mitama build. Yeah, that's what I thought. Alright, Toukiden. And I'll go into the why I think that's the optimal build for this thing in a hot second when we talk Mitama and just how that works. But yeah, for like right now, yeah, 2 minutes 10 seconds with backup on a high rank. Granted, my weapon is ridiculous, but this is why I think this weapon really lends itself to either status effect or elemental speed builds. Because the way the damage is weighted, which we will demonstrate when we get there, is really... It's a mid-range weapon. It does like medium attack, middle of the road. It's no, for comparison, it's no, you know, club. It's no ridiculous amounts of damage, slow attack speed. Like if we go to compare the regular Naginata, you know, regular club, regular longbow, you'll notice the Naginata is a bit on the light side, but like it's about with this chain sickle a little lower. But it's higher than like the dual knives, the chain whip, of the same class. And no gauntlets, no club. So it's middle of the road. But when you notice when we were talking about that hyper skilled state, when it comes to that hyper skilled state, that doesn't divide that damage in 3. It's a multiplier. And so what that means is, you know, you are doing 3 times that damage number every time you hit when you're in red hyper skilled. And as you know, if it's an elemental weapon, which already has a multiplier, well, that's 2 times 2 times 2 times. You know, it's an overall 6 times damage on the elemental damage if it's weak to it. I don't know what the actual elemental modifier is. I used 2 because that makes sense to me, and it's an easy number for these visualizations. So with that, you've got all that build, and then again couple that with Frenzy for the massive amount of attacks you get going really quickly, and it adds up to a lot of damage. The other thing, which is what I'm using currently, is status effect. And the way status effects work to stop them from being completely and utterly broken, for example, the binding I'm using here, I call it paralysis because that's what I'm used to seeing in video games. The way they work is every monster has a threshold. You hit the threshold and then it's paralyzed. After it stops being paralyzed, the threshold gets bigger, so you need to inflict more status to paralyze it the second time. And it's not just a flat, I need to just keep inflicting this amount of status and we're good. Now, again, with the hyper skilled state, you are building that meter 3 times as fast as you normally would, or more. We'll get to that when discussing Mitama more, which we might as well do now, actually, because I've covered the basis of why I think the Naginata is good for an elemental speed build, or status effect build. Now I guess we'll get into the speed part of it. But the The main reasons being, no, not my bio, my equipment. When we get to Mitama, what a speed Mitama does is, you know, increases the rate at which your stamina regens, useful when you're using Frenzy a lot, which you're going to want to. Agility, you know, one time your attack doesn't hit. The attack doesn't hit you. That's important because I did not demonstrate it with how quickly we dumpstered that spider. But if you get hit in hyperskilled, it drops you a level of hyperskilled. So if you're in red hyperskilled and you get hit, you drop to yellow hyperskilled. If you're yellow, you drop back to none. Also, if you spend too long without attacking, your hyperskilled level goes down. Now, it does not need to be the standard, in this case, X attack that charges your hyperskilled state. Just any attacking will do. As long as you keep attacking, it'll stay. The big kicker here is Vigor, the B on Speed Mitama. It increases your attack speed, which again you're already going ham on, and reduces stamina drain. It says focus, and it's focus in this game, but I'm using the more general terms as opposed to this game's specific. So other than that, he's the one I'm not sure on in this build, but I don't feel bad. I have a couple that are Naginata specific Mitamas, like Falling Petals reduces the focus consumed by Frenzy and increases its attack speed. And then for her, I've got the increases your hyper-skilled state after successful parry, which I don't really do, but more to the point, increases the damage you inflict when your hyper-skilled state is at maximum. And since she is my center the side of the... Yep. It's always treating your status as near death when using Immortal. And Immortal is basically just this game's version of Moxie, which you get when you have an attack Mitama in the center slot. I'll actually say, yes, Immortal. Prevents you from going incapacitated. Basically just when you would get knocked out, you survive, and you have a period of time, actually, in this one where you can't die, which is pretty nice. Again, that on the weapon is what gives you that bar, which... Again, Vigor is huge, energy is huge, energy is nice, agility is nice, but the Vigor is the biggest part there. And then on your weapon, you get a special attack skill, which you do by holding the Mitama button and right trigger on the controllers. So like if it's R1 on the PlayStation controller, to pull up the Mitama menu, R2 is what does it off of that. Now, the speed one does this thing in Mirage. Creates a Mirage that attacks enemies for a limited time, although it does increase your focus consumption while up. Why is that relevant? Well, I'll actually just go outside real quick and demonstrate why it's nuts. So if we head outside, some small enemies will work for this, so is why I'm not just pulling up another mission to demonstrate it. I'll do one more at the end to demonstrate how I would actually do it, because I think we can get that 2 minutes and 10 seconds down further. So when you have Mirage up, you'll notice I've got like a couple after images here. And so you'll notice that hit, that's an extra hit. That's weighted exactly the same as your regular one, which is useful in general, but it gets even more crazy when we get into hyper-skilled. So yeah, now it's gone. Now, right, one of these. Yin Hell, +1. Yeah, woo-woo. I'll probably just throw it back, but that gets nuts when you consider the multi-hit effect of hyper-skilled, and then how quickly that can build meters. And so we're going to watch, because you saw my meter was already going pretty quick on that last mission just without using any Mitama. We're going to go ahead, set up another mission, and demonstrate how broken this can really get. Because the answer may surprise you. But yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and pause the recording again. And we'll pick this back up to an all-together now. Here's how this build looks in action. And we're go. So we're in the same mission again. High rank. Okay. This would go better if I could stop getting hit like an idiot. Again, I have never claimed to be good at this game. And so we've got first para, we're in Gale Hyperscope, we're in red. Now what we're going to do, proc every single skill, and then just slam Frenzy. And so if you look at, and he's already paralyzed again, but if you'll look, you'll notice how quickly my gauges are flying up right now. Like, he's already starting to lose pieces pretty severely. There's another paralysis. And by the time this is done, boom. I've already got my Unity gauge. Rip. Give me that. And I've also got my weapon gauge right away. So I've perma-broke that. I was getting one of those too. It didn't really matter which at that point. But yeah, I can use that to get... So he's off doing his little thing again. Alright. And he's done. We're just gonna not even bother purifying the parts right now. We're just gonna go ham on this boy. Because there's nothing you can do about it. Plain and simple. So again, that's another demonstration of how now I'm down to yellow. And he's down. 2 minutes and 20, about the same, but I took 2 stupid hits. So you can see how that we could clearly have shaved time down if I wasn't shit. Didn't get everything off him that time, which is a bit of a bummer, but you know, it's what it be. But yeah, that's basically the Naginata in a nutshell and why I love it. Because I got, like, as you saw, I got like 6 paralysis off over that. I got a ton of paralysis. Your gauges fill up like instantly when you do that. And it's just so cash as long as you can stick in there, not be me so you don't get hit. Like, that's how I play. One thing you might want to do differently, and I still need to do more experimenting with, is if you just go ahead and pop Vigor right away, and basically keep Vigor active whenever possible. I think that's the Y one. Yeah. Oh no, it's Agility, excuse me. Yeah, well, Vigor I reserve for once I'm in Hyperskilled, but the Vigor and Energy are that. Agility, maybe always keep that topped up. I'm one of those people that's a consummate hoarder. When it comes to games, if I see it has a limited quantity, I'll just hold on to it forever. And it's a problem I need to work on. But, you know, Vigor can help Vigor. Agility, I'm going to keep mixing those up and I don't know why. But Agility can help get you into maximum hyperskill if that is the avenue you take. Definitely can be useful there. I just save it so that way my Frenzy combo won't be interrupted once I get to maximum hyperskill and proc everything, the reducing consumption, you know, increased refill, mirage, just all of that, and increased attack speed while going absolutely ham with Frenzy at maximum hyperskill. That is just what I found works best for me with this weapon. And again, I'm using status effect, I'm using paralysis. I don't know how effective this would be with poison, because I feel like once you hit a certain overflow value with poison, it's just you're wasting poison seconds. Which, since poison is DOT instead of immobility, that's kind of a pretty big problem. And you'd have no way of knowing with that, as opposed to, you know, with paralysis, you know if you paralyze someone. But then again, that massive amount of just attack speed is also very good for, like, you know, this worm Naginata that's mostly elemental. Like, you get a mostly elemental weapon on this, you're set. Like, that's the sort of thing you should be trying to get your hands on, in my opinion, when playing this game. When playing this weapon, is just highest elemental you can, elemental or status effect, if you're going status effect like I am. Pump as much of your upgrading when you're upgrading the weapon. Pump as much of it as you can into element or status effect. Like whenever you're doing any of these. This one I still need to get more crap to upgrade properly. But it will replace what I'm using, which is the Parastasis 9. Once I get it there. But that's the thing is, it's get one of these don't help you as much. These are not as good. Dex is nice, but that's a diminishing returns thing once you get there. But the main thing you should be doing is trying to get high element. Clearly, I'm not listening to my own advice here, just looking at some of the crap I have. But it's yeah, that Aestus is primarily raw damage. You don't want that. You want primarily elemental or status, and then you're just going to pump all of the points you can into more element. Dex critting is nice because, you know, crit's another multiplier, and more multipliers on more attacks is always a good thing. So you're gonna want some dex, but the main focus should always be, in my opinion, and this is, again, this is a subjective tutorial, take it with a grain of salt, me just explaining how I have managed to get through high rank while playing as shit as you just saw. So I have to be, you know, if it's not skill, it's got to be something else. And I'd like to call out my gear for that. It's just what it be. So you always want, whenever possible, so like if I was going to reforge this, I'm not right now, this is for the sake of the demonstration. What gets me, what has the highest elemental to raw ratio? In this case it'd be Blazebird, which is fine with me. And then you can just again, which one does more? Which one does more element? Novabird. Okay, we upgrade Novabird. I'm not really doing anything with these parts, so I don't mind doing this for the demonstration. And then Novabird's done. And so then when you go to Fortified Novabird over here, you just mash the crap out of Elemental. Now this is also a dex one, so you'll get some minor dex regardless of how you upgrade it. Whether you go for raw attack or attack and dex or elemental attack even. So here we just sink into fire, and then whenever we're encountering a monster that's weak to fire, that is the downside of this tactic that I'm promoting, is that it is very resource intensive, because you'd have to check every time, you know, Encyclopedia, Oni, you know, and make sure you hit the right button after you're on here, yeah. Weak against. And so you need to make sure that whenever you're fighting something, you have, yeah. And so monsters like Sky Shredder you're going to have a problem with. But it's, you need to make sure you have a Naginata that is that proper element. Dealing with that's just going to be a pain. And things that don't are going to hard counter you unless you're going status effect. Which, hey, I am. It's basically, status effect is basically my way to get around that. Because again, like all these things that it's like has standard resistance to all other attributes and none are particularly effective, basically just means you're going to be doing regular element damage, which, I mean, it's still damage, it's still regular, you're just not getting that multiplier that makes the rate of attack so good. So that's the drawback of using an elemental build with this, is just that, again, the standard drawback of all elemental builds. You need to make sure you have a Naginata of the element you need. Status effect don't have that problem. Just, you have your status effect, go. And build up, which is why I am, again, partial to, as you've noticed, the Parastasis Naginata. Because that works regardless of what your enemy's resistances are. It's just a good time. That is not to say you can't do raw damage builds with the Naginata. You absolutely can. High rate of attack is still a lot of damage. But for me, it's just, it lets you exploit elemental weaknesses or just utilize status effects so much better. That is the kind of play I gravitate towards and would recommend with this weapon. That said, this tutorial's gone on for 26 minutes, a bit longer than the YouTube algorithm says is optimal. So, sure to leave a like if you liked it, comment on how I might have been able to improve this for next time, subscribe if you're not already, and thanks for putting up with the shill. I will see you guys whenever I end up doing another video. Bye-bye.